Man, what a game that was. Bills fans, you got to be feeling good after that one. Josh Allen looked like the version of himself we've all been waiting for. You could feel it from the very first drive, the confidence, the mechanics, the rhythm. It just felt different, like everything was finally clicking again. The accuracy was on point, the decision-making was mostly sharp, and even though there's still a few small things to polish up, you can tell this is the Josh Allen we've been waiting to see for weeks. The dude completed over 92% of his passes that were actually catchable. That's the highest rate among all quarterbacks in Week 9. And it wasn't just checkdowns or short throws either. He hit those deep shots, 3 completions on 3 attempts for more than 80 yards and a touchdown. You could see him taking those intermediate windows too, hitting 4 out of 5 passes for nearly 90 yards in that range. It was vintage Allen, confident, precise, and totally in control. And that's not just about accuracy, it's about command. You could tell he worked hard on his throwing mechanics and footwork, just like he said after the game. He looked balanced. No unnecessary movement, no wild overthrows, just clean execution. You could almost see the difference with every throw. His hips were lined up, his release was quicker, and his sequencing was smooth. It's like he finally synced his mind and body again. The improvement was obvious, and it paid off. But if there's one thing still lagging a bit, it's the pocket management. There were a few times where he bailed out of clean pockets or got a little jumpy when he didn't really need to. That's the kind of habit that can creep back in when a quarterback's been under fire too often. You can tell he's still shaking off a little of that anxiety from earlier games, but even then, it's way better than what we saw a few weeks ago. I'd say Josh is about 88% back to his peak form and trending up fast. Now, let's talk about the pressure, or actually the lack of it. The offensive line deserves a ton of credit. Allen was pressured on just a little over 13% of his dropbacks. That's the second lowest rate in the entire league for that week. And that's against Steve Spagnuolo's Chiefs defense, which loves to blitz. They came after Allen over a third of the time, but every time they did, he made them pay. 10 completions on 10 passes for 84 yards when blitzed. That's surgical. You could see that the protection plan was tight. The Bills line knew when the pressure was coming, picked it up, and gave Josh the time to throw. That's a huge change from some of the messy weeks we've seen before. And then there's the play-action game, finally being used the way it should. Allen went 8 for 8 off play-action for nearly 100 yards. That's the kind of balance this offense has been missing. It's like Joe Brady finally realized that letting Josh sell the fake and open up space behind those linebackers is exactly what this passing attack needs. The play-action looks pulled the Chiefs defenders just enough to open lanes in the middle of the field, and you could see how much easier that made things for guys like Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir. Speaking of screens, yeah, I know some fans are tired of them. But listen, there's a purpose behind those calls. They're not just filler plays. They're bait. When you throw a few screens, you're making those defensive linemen think twice before they tee off on the pass rush. You're keeping them honest, and you're setting up something deeper down the road. You could actually see that sequencing pay off in this game. The Bills used Shakir on those quick screens early, then later faked it and had him run a shallow cross for a 20-yard gain. That's chess, not checkers. You could feel that the offensive staff came in with a plan, a rhythm, and the players executed it with confidence. Now, Dalton Kincaid. What a weapon. The guy was everywhere. His route running, his hands, his ability to find soft spots in coverage. It's elite stuff. You can see why the Bills spent a first-round pick on him. He's got that blend of wide receiver smoothness and tight end toughness that makes him a nightmare to defend. He went over 100 receiving yards in this game. And that's not just another stat line. That made history. This was the first time ever that the Bills had a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiving tight end in the same game. That's insane. And every time Josh looked his way, it was automatic. Allen has a perfect passer rating, 158.1, when targeting Kincaid this season. That's 33 targets, 27 catches, over 400 yards, and 4 touchdowns. You can't draw it up any better than that. What's wild is that Kincaid didn't even play a full load of snaps. He's still splitting time, easing back from that oblique issue. But when he's on the field, he changes everything. Defenses have to account for him, and that opens things up for everyone else. He's not in line as much as Dawson Knox or Jackson Hollister, but that's by design. He's that move piece, that big slot mismatch who can torch linebackers and safeties alike. And you can tell he's building that chemistry with Josh again, which just makes this offense that much scarier. On the ground, the Bills were just as dominant. 35 rushes, 141 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's not a fluke. That's control. They're now up to 16 rushing touchdowns through 8 games, tying a franchise record that stood since the 1960s. That's old school, smash-mouth football meeting modern offensive balance. Josh Allen added 2 of those scores himself because of course he did. He's still that dual-threat guy who can turn a broken play into 6 points in a heartbeat. James Cook, though, deserves a ton of credit. He was steady, disciplined, and patient. 27 carries. That's a real workhorse day. He might not have broken a long one this time, but he kept those chains moving, and that's what matters. You could tell the Bills leaned more into their gap schemes in this game, pulling guards, getting Reggie Gilliam involved as a lead blocker, and using motion to mess with the Chiefs' linebackers. It worked beautifully in the first half, and even when things tightened up later, they never lost control of the run game. Kansas City hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in over 20 games, but Cook changed that. And speaking of Gilliam, man, that guy's a hidden gem. He's one of those glue players that casual fans might overlook, but he's crucial to the structure of this offense. He was in there leading the way, making clean contact, and creating those lanes for Cook and Allen to exploit. The way they used him offset in the backfield, not straight up in the I formation, added a layer of unpredictability to their run looks. That forced Kansas City's linebackers to hesitate for just a moment, which is all you need to win the leverage battle up front. It's smart football, and you could see the Bills really dialing into that kind of detail. The Chiefs' defense deserves credit too. They're physical and disciplined, especially downhill. You could see how hard it was for Cook to hit those cutback lanes that he usually loves. Guys like Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill were flying downhill and squeezing those gaps tight. But even against that, Buffalo kept pounding away, staying patient, and that's what eventually opened up those red zone rushing touchdowns. It's that mix of persistence and play design that makes this version of the Bills' offense so tough to stop. And you know what? It wasn't just the big names shining. The entire offensive line looked solid. The interior, especially the guards and center, did a fantastic job handling Chris Jones and that interior pressure. They got hands on him early, stayed balanced, and never let him take over. There was even a zone read play that completely exposed Jones's over-aggressiveness, which was a beautiful bit of scheming. That's how you neutralize elite defenders. You make them guess. When you look deeper into how this Bills offense operated against Kansas City, you start to see just how organized and deliberate their approach really was. Every snap had purpose. Every formation had a reason behind it. This wasn't just a bunch of random play calls stitched together. It was a full offensive identity starting to emerge. You could see how Joe Brady balanced tempo and rhythm, mixing run and pass, power and finesse, keeping the Chiefs' defense on their heels all afternoon. Josh Allen wasn't trying to be the hero on every play. He trusted the system, trusted his reads, and let the offense breathe. That a big shift from some earlier games where he felt like he had to carry everything on his shoulders. This version of Josh looked more patient, more in control, more willing to take what the defense gave him before delivering the knockout punch. You could especially see that in how the Bills managed long drives. There were sequences where they strung together 7, 8, 9 plays, mixing short passes, motion looks, and inside runs to wear down Kansas City's front. When an offense stays balanced like that, it opens up the entire playbook. The Chiefs tried to bring simulated pressures, dropping defenders out and disguising their blitzes, but Allen didn't bite. His eyes stayed calm, his feet stayed clean, and he stepped into his throws with confidence. That's what happens when a quarterback feels comfortable with his protection and understands what the defense is trying to do. Dalton Kincaid continued to be that reliable safety valve. His chemistry with Allen is becoming something special. You could tell Josh knows exactly where Kincaid will be on his breaks. That kind of timing takes months to develop, but it's clear they've put in the work. Whether it's a quick option route underneath or a seam shot splitting 2 defenders, Kincaid, makes it look effortless. He's turning into that kind of tight end who doesn't just catch passes. He changes how defenses line up. Safeties are starting to shade toward him. Linebackers are hesitating before committing to the run, and that creates openings everywhere else. Another name that deserves recognition is Khalil Shakir. The kid has stepped into a bigger role and keeps making plays that matter. His feel for space and yards after the catchability were huge in this game. Even those screen plays that fans roll their eyes, it ended up setting up other plays later. It's all about sequence football. You make the defense think they've got you figured out, then hit them with a counter. That's exactly what happened on that shallow cross that went for 20 yards. Same look, totally different outcome. That's the kind of setup that shows trust between the coaches and players. Now, let's talk about the snap distribution because that tells you a lot about what the Bills were trying to do. James Cook played 50 snaps out of 66 total offensive plays, which shows how much the team leaned on him. He wasn't just a runner either. He helped in pass protection and caught a few passes that kept drives alive. Ty Johnson chipped in with 13 snaps, providing that change of pace and bringing a bit more physicality between the tackles. Reggie Gilliam saw 17 snaps, and nearly all of them mattered. His lead blocking was key to some of the biggest chunk runs of the day. You can see the coaching staff finding creative ways to use him, motioning him across the formation to influence linebackers before the snap. That small adjustment forced Kansas City's defenders to hesitate just long enough for the line to win leverage. At tight end, Dawson Knox and Jackson Hollister handled most of the heavy blocking assignments, freeing up Kincaid to do what he does best, stretch the defense vertically and attack those soft zones. And even though Kincaid played fewer snaps, every time he was on the field, the offense looked sharper. It's almost like his presence unlocks an entirely different mode for Josh Allen. You could sense it every time the Bills lined up in two tight end sets. The Chiefs didn't know whether to load the box or back off into coverage. That confusion is what Buffalo has to keep exploiting. On the outside, Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir carried the load at receiver, while Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore filled their roles with precision. Samuel's route on that 47-yard Kincaid catch deserves special mention. He pulled 3 defenders deep, completely clearing out the middle of the field. That's unselfish football, doing your job so someone else can make the big play. Elijah Moore had a few routes where he popped open downfield, but didn't get the ball. Still, you can see him becoming more comfortable in this system. Once the chemistry fully clicks, he's going to start seeing those targets turn into big gains. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In what is already being described as one of the most surprising moves of the offseason, Mitchell Trubisky has reportedly announced his departure from the Buffalo Bills, leaving fans, analysts, and teammates alike stunned. According to sources close to the quarterback, Trubisky's decision was fueled by mounting frustration and a sense that he had reached his breaking point. "I've reached my limit," the 27-year-old allegedly said, sending social media into a frenzy and igniting speculation across the league. Trubisky, who joined the Bills seeking stability and a chance to prove himself as a starter, seemed to have found a promising role in Buffalo's offense. However, insiders suggest that internal conflicts, combined with a lack of clarity about his future with the team, may have pushed him to the edge. Rumors are swirling that Trubisky had been voicing concerns about play calling, coaching strategies, and his role in the locker room for months, but nothing seemed to change. The NFL community is now buzzing with questions. Where could Trubisky go next? While some speculate that a reunion with a former coach or a team in need of an experienced signal caller could be on the horizon, others wonder if the quarterback is ready to take a break from the game altogether. Agent sources remain tight-lipped, adding to the intrigue and fueling even more speculation. Fans have taken to social media to express shock, disappointment, and, in some cases, excitement at the potential drama this could unfold. The Bills, known for their deep playoff aspirations, are reportedly scrambling behind the scenes to explore backup plans and maintain stability in their quarterback room. Analysts have already begun debating whether this move could signal a trend of player empowerment or if Trubisky's decision is an isolated case of frustration boiling over. Whatever the reality, one thing is clear. The NFL offseason just became a lot more interesting. Teams are watching closely, agents are working overtime, and fans are eagerly refreshing rumor threads, hoping for any hint of where Trubisky's next chapter will unfold. Could this be the start of a major shakeup in the league's quarterback landscape? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure. Mitchell Trubisky's declaration, "I've reached my limit," has set the rumor mill ablaze, and no one is ready to look away. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.